Hello everyone. Welcome to the next episode of Pilot Talks,
पायलट की बात.
Pilot Ki Baat. Good morning, sir. How are you doing today?
Arey, I'm doing fantastic, fine. I'm so happy about these ongoing episodes of ours. Somebody the other day called me, one of the pilots, and he was watching, the video, and he was telling me, "Sir, I really didn't know. I mean, these are the challenges of berthing a very high cube, high volume container ships and things like that." So I think he was referring to Herman Broer's, YouTube interview that we took. But it was like, for him, it was a great experience listening to this. So I think, yes, our shows are yielding a good result. People are watching them again and again, and they're learning. One of our first few videos have got more than 2,000 views so far. So that's a good thing because in various media it is going. It's going in LinkedIn, on Twitter, on your Instagram page. There are a lot of followers you have, plus on the AMPA's Instagram page. So definitely it will have good reach. So whom do we have today for a discussion?
Today we have an interesting personality. He is the ex-Dufferin 6870 batch, a very senior person. He started his career as a cadet with SCI, and then he was there with SCI till the rank of Chief Officer till 1977. He is none other than Captain Ashok Gole. He joined Iraqi tankers later on. He got his first command in 1980. He sailed on Iranian bulk carriers and then with five-star shipping on the Great Eastern ships. Early 1998, he joined Pipavav port as a pilot. That was the beginning of his most challenging 12 years, which we would like to hear from him directly. Anything else, sir? Am I missing something here?
Captain Ashok Gole is from Pune, and he's of course, very senior master mariner, senior pilot, senior harbor master, but can be called as a friend because a very friendly, kind of a person. He's deep into, cooking skills, so he has a heart of a cook, and of course, he's been involved with Pipavav Port since its inception. Share a lot of knowledge on Pipavav Port planning and planning of pilotage operation with us and viewers. And of course, I'm sure that the takeaways for the pilots, port officials, other ports, and also our seafarers and master mariners would be great by this episode because they will learn something new as to how the port planning goes by. So let's welcome Captain Ashok Gole to Pilot Ki Baat.
Yes, sir. I'm sure the viewers must be excited already. I'm excited. In this episode, we will be learning how a port was developed and to what it is right now. It's one of the best ports in India, and Captain Ashok Gole is the sole man responsible for that. So let's not wait. Let's get Captain Ashok Gole on board. A very good morning to you, Captain Ashok, sir. Thank you for joining us live.
Good morning, everybody.
Captain Ashok, you took out some time on your Sunday when the Australian Open is going on, final tennis match. Thank you very much for being here on our request because the entire exercise of this video recording and interviewing is to spread awareness. And we are aware of your work in Pipavav Port. Let me introduce the other two hosts to you. One is Captain Vijay Sharma. He's a young master mariner, done one ship in command. And after all these interviews with the pilots and pilot personalities and people involved with pilotage, he's really taken in the air because the ship's master doesn't know anything about what pilot is doing and what pilot is thinking. So it is also a good platform to make the master mariners, young master mariners, even the old ones, to make them aware of this program and what pilotage is about. What is the safety and security lies in whose hands? Because he's being a shipman and sailor, seafarer, he's a front runner on this. Another one is Captain Sanjeev Pandey. Sanjeev Pandey is very deeply involved in AMPA recently. And after the webinar, he really, we found him very useful in his, whatever quality he has. He's also an active pilot. He does pilotage in Dahej. I believe he was a pilot in Pipavav also, where the systems you have set in. So probably, he would be the right guy to ask you a few questions on what he has seen after you left Pipavav. This is not a question answer session. This is just a discussion, informal, absolutely, because just to pick your brain on few things where we can develop some takeaways for the pilots in India, for the global pilots, and also for seafarers. That is the idea of this entire exercise and this kind of a talk show. So we call it a Pilot Ki Baat, which is based on Modi's Man Ki Baat. But there only Modi alone talks. So since it is a Pilot Ki Baat and pilot safety and security is everybody's business, so everyone will talk. So it's not one man. It is everybody who's involved in the endeavor of getting the pilot safely on board and off the board to get back to his family. So let us begin, Vijay.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Let me do the honors of asking Captain Ashok the first question that I have. Since I've involved with Pilotage organization, and I have this initiative now that I also want to be an aspiring pilot, and I need some rank experience to learn the ship handling on board, and then find out the process and formalities needed. So, sir, since you have been a pilot yourself, and it requires a lot of skills and various challenges coming from a sailing career to a shore career. So, if you could just share your insights on what are the challenges that you faced in your new role as a pilot?
New role as a pilot, when I joined, I thought it will be easy, but it wasn't easy at all for various reasons. And as the days passed and as I got more experience in piloting, and I realized like I told everybody, that as a master, you are not even thinking 30% what the pilot is thinking. And when you are piloting a vessel, and especially in a smaller channel where you don't have to go miles and miles and things like that, your mind is ticking all the time, and it is watching all around you, making whatever. Every pilot probably decides, well, this is the landmark which has passed. This is something has passed. Something has passed, and which I think you have to keep doing it, because that gives you a very good idea. Also, of course, you have all your radar and ARPA and all these things, but visually, when you see it, it gives you more confidence. But as I learned piloting, and I would say I became more proficient, more confident, and more experienced in it, then I used to love it. And I always said that I am playing a video game live. When I'm berthing a ship, I'm unberthing a ship, I'm playing a video game live. Because every moment, every time you berth a ship or unberth a ship, it could be something different. It is not the same thing like, step 1, step 2, this thing happened, and it's all finished. There can be a difference in wind force. There could be difference in the tidal strength, the difference in size of the ship, and various factors. So every time you berth and unberth a ship, I always said, I play a video game live. There is no computer playing it. It's probably the nature is playing. I'm playing again with the nature, and I used to just love it. And once you start loving that particular profession, I think you will really enjoy it. That is how I looked at my piloting time.
As it is mentioned that pleasure in the job puts perfection, but you mentioned in a very easy way. It's a video game, but ship handling is definitely not as easy as it seems, and you have been a master at it. So thank you so much, sir. It's valuable information.
Yeah, very well said. Absolutely correct. But you see, you must have joined that port when the port was just in inception, right? So, just being a pilot, how many ships at the time were there? Hardly any ships must be coming there in Pipavav those days when you had joined.
See, actually, this idea of joining up as a pilot came to me because I was joining a ship at Bhavnagar in '97, and I met Captain Karnik on the flight. The senior Karnik who were DC Bombay Port and all that.
Bombay Port, yeah.
And I had met him a few times before. So I said, sir, where are you going? He says, no, there is a private port coming. and I am taking the marine operation part on contract basis. So I said, then you will probably need pilots also. He said, yes, I'll be needing pilots sometime next year. And what attracted me was the private port, because we came to a lot of Indian ports, and they were all government ports. And I said, why can't we have a port which is somewhere like you see the ports in Europe and all that, well maintained and this and everything in proper. And I said, if I join this, I think I'll be setting up a good port which people will appreciate and not at all working like government ports. And so when I came back from the ship, I called him. I said, do you have a vacancy for pilot? So he said, the port operation has just not started, but they will start sometime in February. So in March, I have a requirement for a pilot. And then he said, are you interested? I said, yes, I'm interested, provided you give me 1 month on, 1 month off. I can't stay there all the time. And he thought over it and he says, okay, Ashok, I'll give you 1 month on, 1 month off. But first, one day, let us go there. You have a look at it and then decide. And I said, why? I said, if it 1 month on, 1 month off, if you put me in a desert also, I said, I will stay there for 1 month and I will do whatever work is required to be done. And that is how I joined Pipavav on 15th of March, 1998. That was the first time I went. Like you said, the traffic wasn't much. The most of the traffic that time was Ultratech. That time L&T Cement had their own jetty. So the ships were coming there for loading cement or discharging clinker or something like that. And what happened was Captain Nazrat, very senior, 30 years experience as Bombay pilot, he was the port captain there. So he was doing the piloting at that time for their ships under Captain Karnik. So he says, okay, he's there and you go with him for piloting. And I went on the first day along with him. We berthed the ship. I was just watching what he is doing. And second ship. And then he says, okay, now after 3 days, I am going on Easter holiday. So you handle the berthing, unberthing after that, And he was going for 15 days. I said, I just only seen you doing 2 ships. And probably I will see 1 more ship before you go. And, but I said, okay, I will do it. And Captain Khosla was there. He was from the L&T side. He was operating the marine department, senior master then also. And I had known him from SCI. He was superintendent in SCI when I was on tankers, And he was there. And evening, he called me. Captain Nazrat had left. And he said, Gole, tomorrow you have to berth a vessel. You think you can do it? You have done only 3 ships. So I said, sir, I think I will be able to berth and I will be able to unberth after. So he says, what do you mean you think? I said, see, it is only 3 ships experience. So, but one thing I will give you a guarantee, that I will not have an accident. If I'm not able to berth the vessel, I will take the vessel out and anchor again. So he said, oh, that's more than enough for me. And then the next day when I was berthing the vessel, he was standing on the jetty. And once I came alongside and first lines were sent ashore, he just waved me bye-bye and he went back to Bombay. And that is how I started my piloting. It was totally different, means the port was new. There were no marking buoys. There were no leading towers. Of course, it was only daytime piloting, but there were no leading lights. Entrance to the port is a reef, but there is a gap in the reef, almost 400-meter gap. And that is the entrance to the port. So there was 1 port hand, 1 starboard hand buoy there. That's all that was there. Inside, nothing was dredged, all uneven depths. There was one chart 2100, old chart published our National Hydrographic Office. And was the only chart that was available. And well, we had to go on like this. But Captain Nazrat, being the very senior and well experienced person, he had set certain do's and don'ts, that when ship can berth, the window for berthing, unberthing, how they will berth, and all that. And that is how I actually started my piloting. With probably very little or minimum help that one could have,
Absolutely, sir. I mean, excuse me. Absolutely. I mean, today, of course, we have a training regime for the pilots, which we saw Captain Karkare explaining us in the AMPA webinar as to minimum 300 movements they have to go through in any port. But of course, as I said, I've heard from a lot of pilots also, the pilotage is also an art and also a science. If you understand the science, the art becomes easier. And you have a third element, that is gut feeling. You had the gut feeling of being a pilot, and that's why you could probably pull it off. But I don't think in today's scenario anybody can do the pilotage in 3 movements. I mean, let's hear Captain Pandey also, because he is also a pilot in Pipavav. I would also give him one chance to ask you a question, or he can share his small experience about Pipavav.
Only 3 movements, but I couldn't have had more movements in that particular port, because it was a new port. I think that was the 6th or 7th ship coming there. So there was no question. Later on, we set a pilot training program and how many movements and all that. But initially, probably that was not, maybe in a simulator condition, I could have done something. But I think that time, that thing was also not available. Yes, Captain Pandey.
That's true. The whole port was a greenfield port. So when nobody done any movements in the port, the question of doing 300 movements doesn't arise. So it was starting from scratch. So it's an exceptional case. So it just requires a lot of, gut feeling and some sort of courage. Courage also required, and natural ability. That's what takes you through. And some luck. We don't say pilots need a lot of luck also. Not that we don't. If you can't say you're very safe. Like luck is not a very part of it. There have been close shaves, but you get away with it. This happens any kind of sphere, any kind of very challenging kind of sphere. On a different note, afterwards, when Captain Gore started, eventually when the port was under a full-time management, earlier it was quite ad hoc, I would say. Then afterwards, pretty good investors came in, that is A.P. Moller Group. And then they started the port very seriously. They spent a lot of capital. And that's when the port was set up. And that is what Captain Gore is all about. How he set up this greenfield port. I would say, I've been in quite a few ports around the coast of India. That Pipavav port now, you see, is like gold standard as far as the way the channels is made out, the way the whole marine operations are run, and the kind of standard which we have set over there. He's 100% responsible for it. Now it's just taking easy way for everybody else to follow. The whole system has been set by him. So maybe Captain Gore could tell us something about that, how he got the channel made, the big, beautiful turning basin, the leading lights, and the kind of wars and difficulties he had to face to get it done, and convince management. That was his big forte, to get his point across, be firm about it, and see the long-term picture. That's what Captain Gore was about. Maybe you can walk us through, sir. Captain Gore.
Yeah. Like I said, when I joined first, and it was just the 2100 chart, and only thing written on that port under construction at one place, and it showed L&T cement jetty, and nothing else was there.
So all dotted lines. All dotted lines, yes. And as we gained experience, in fact, I joined in month of March, and the June, July, that monsoon was a very busy monsoon. It was a very busy monsoon for Pipavav port, because the west coast, other ports closed, like Dahej or
all Surat or someplace, and they all closed. And that traffic started coming here. And that traffic started coming here. It was not easy to handle it because I was told not much experience. Other Captain Karandikar and Captain Nandar Pillai had just joined, and they were also learning. But certain, berthing windows, which we had set, that we will not berth middle of the tide, we will not do this, we will not do that. And in the initial stages, we did follow that. At times, yes, the commercial department felt that why we are delaying the ship, and because they are interested in showing more ships coming and going. But somehow or the other, we were able to convince them. Or sometimes, if we had to put our foot down that we will not do it, we did it. But later on, they understood actually why we did it, and there was a reason why we could say no at that time. It was a matter of, delaying a particular movement for 4 or 5 hours. It was not a big delay that we can't do it at all. That gave us a lot of experience, that how the channel should be, where are the difficulties, how much width we should have. A lot of people ask me that at the entrance, why you have almost 350 meters width when the ship is coming in. That is correct. 350 meters sounds very big. But at the entrance, where you're entering that point, there is all the time cross current. So you are making, going against the cross current, you are not heading straight into it, you are either, depending on what kind of a tide it is, you're, heading eastward, westward, or whatever it is. But that is why, and if you have to make a slight turn there or something like that, you needed that. And same thing when it happened to the turning circle, somebody got a design and they made a channel like this and made a round circle there, and they said this is the turning circle. But then again, I had to tell them that no, because the ship starts turning much earlier. It doesn't come in the circle, stops there, turns around. And what happens is that at times people are looking at the commercial angle, because Captain Pandey knows the channel which we have made. A lot of dredging was done. But we were able to convince them that this is what is required. And actually the ships were coming in at that time. So at times I had to take the CEO or somebody. I said, sir, you come and stand on the jetty and watch this ship coming in. From where it starts turning and how it turns. And by the time it turns, where the ship has reached, And then you will realize that it is more of that oblong shaped and turning circle. And people did understand that, because we did our dredging. First dredging was done in 2005. We had to plan the dredging, and finally a drawing was agreed. One of the good things that happened is 2002, justify what you're doing. And there were people, maybe not in the port, who understand much about the marine, but in their offices and all that, they had the people who would understand you. And that made a bit simpler. And the first dredging plan which was made, I don't know if you can see, this is the first dredging plan, And initial stages, we just had 2 boys at the entrance and nothing. And then we had to do all this first phase of dredging, which was done in 2005 that time. It was a big operation. But yes, the management agreed that yes, that is what is required. And they went about it, giving the dredging contract. And dredging was another experience by itself, because one of the clauses in dredging was, if you tell the dredger to stop the work because of the ship's movement, then they will charge for the downtime, And that was quite heavy. And because of the dredging, we couldn't stop the ship movement. So the shipping has to go on, the dredging has to go on. What to do? How to go about? So what we did was every day at 11:30, the dredging company representative, myself, and somebody from the operations, we will meet and we will make a plan for the next 3 days, that this is the time the ships are coming. This is the time the ship is likely to sail. This is where the dredger will be. Because the dredger was on the spot, and so it had its own lines, anchors and all spreading out. And so, but it worked out well, and every day we will review that, do we need to change anything? And that's how it went on. And it went quite smooth. And it was an experience for me. It was an experience for the other pilots who were there, because we had to really use all our skills to go around the dredger, not to get caught up in their anchor wires and things like that. And, just when the ship was passing, the dredger would stop dredging. But it was a big experience. And I think dredger company was also happy, because when they finished the dredging, just before they left, we had a small party or thing like that. And their boss said, this is the first time that we have done dredging in many ports, but this is the first port where we didn't have fight with the Marine Department. So I suppose that 11:30 meeting did the trick. And then of course, when we did the second phase of dredging, we followed the same routine and all that. So it went on well. But that first time, it was really important, because the seabed was totally uneven. There was no channel or there was nothing, small passage to go. When the dredger is there, you have to really go around and know the depth at that time with the tide and things like that. But by then, we, like I said, we had an experience. It was not on that the port has started and within first 5 months you have started the dredging. It was almost 4 years or 5 years since we were operating. So we knew exactly what we can do, what we cannot do, and when we can berth a particular vessel, when we cannot berth a particular vessel, and it could be planned. And like I said, the management was, they really accepted what we said, and they did put sometimes a pressure, but that was really, maybe a commercial angle of it. Once they came to know that whatever we do, we are doing properly, and we also think of the commercial angle and we are not wasting our time. All the dredging part, even dredging part 2, that went on well. But it was a really good experience. It was experience for managing it, and it was experience for the pilots, who were piloting at that time. The first phase of dredging, when we did piloting, can you imagine at the entrance, when it is just about 400 meters, the dredger is there, and you can't ask the dredger to move because it takes about 6 hours for him to move by the time the tide is changed. And again, he comes back, that means his whole day has gone. But just tell him to stop and go around him. And I remember I was taking a container ship in. The dredger was right at the entrance there, and the captain asked me, "Pilot, the dredger is there. How are we going to go in?" I said, "You just make sure that the engine doesn't stop, and we will go in." And whatever movement I give, and then I just went, round like this, as if you're going around, around the traffic island. And then he also said, "My God, that was good." But look, that's it. We had planned it before, go about it. So it worked. It was quite challenging. That piloting during dredging operation was very challenging.
Well, sir, that was very insightful. Learned a lot of things, especially from somebody who is so senior pilot, and development of Pipavav from scratch. That was interesting for me.
Absolutely, Captain Gole. Thank you very much for your time, and indeed, nice meeting you. Even Captain Pandey, you took out some time of yours and came for the show. It was, very nice to have you asking the questions about the, the entire port ambit is, port planning ambit is so new to all of us. Really good, Captain Gole. Thank you very much. And definitely we'll see you for the next episode, because we still have some more questions to ask you, and we will invite you for the next show of Pilot Ki Baat. Thank you.
Yes, sir. Thank you so much. And thank you, Captain Sanjeev, sir, for taking out your time and asking very good, genuine questions. Thank you, viewers, for watching this show. Subscribe to IIMPA channel. Watch this video on Instagram and YouTube channels of IIMPA, as well as my Instagram, as well as my YouTube channel. So till then, stay safe. This is Captain Vijay, my dear friend, my mentor, my guru, Captain Gajanan, sir, signing off. Till then, bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye. Bye-bye.